This is the John Brown Alliance, the new DMV voice of the Democratic resistance. Do you wonder why some protests aren't working? I have been an activist for over 20 years. When you become an activist, you have to be prepared not to be liked. You have to be prepared for people not to agree with you. You have to be prepared for failure. And you learn along the way. You don't just come out of nowhere with a cause, put it on YouTube, and expect people to jump up and drop what they're doing and run to Washington, D.C. That is not how it's done. No matter how you shame people or scream at them, that's not how it's done. Especially when it comes to Black and Latino people right now. You have to meet people where they are. Right now, every time a Black or Latino person walks outside of their house in the DMV, they risk their lives to go to work, to go to the store, to pick their children up from school. Because right now, we don't know what our government has in store for us, or the government you created when you stole Indian land. But I digress. We don't know. Now, many of us had our land stolen. We were sent to boarding schools. We were abused. It was hidden from society. And just until recently, nobody talked about that. Some of us came on a ship from Africa, kidnapped and enslaved. Our genetic memory as people of color has everything to do with how we react to certain situations. And if the absence of Black people in Washington, D.C. right now has you perplexed, it's because our genetic memory lets us know when it is the time to strike. So when you protest at places where 46% of Project 2025 has already been achieved and no change can be made, just because you can get in those people's faces, we're not interested. Black people right now are not tuned in, for the most part, my generation anyway, to MSNBC and CNN. We don't give a fuck what they broadcast. Right now, people my age are on independent media, on YouTube, and any other outlet that is not regulated by the current administration and their lackeys. So, that ship has sailed. Okay? You need to get with the now. Get with the people where they are. And address them in such a way that is not a mandate. And that's the problem with white organizers I'm having right now. The best example I have seen about how to organize a successful protest is the quote-unquote old people that Stephen Miller is afraid of here in Washington, D.C. They don't talk a bunch of shit on YouTube. They don't make people do stuff or tell them what they need to do. And the biggest mistake white America always makes, is trying to tell people of color what to do. Since Columbus first landed, and people believed you and trusted you, every single solitary decade since Columbus landed here has resulted in deaths of indigenous and Black people. So don't talk to me about what the fuck we need to do. And once again, White people don't mean to do that, but they do that. You are not the fucking authority on a goddamn thing. You are an immigrant just like everybody else. You are not entitled. You are not special. You are not particularly educated as a race. You are not industrious because you spent the last, I don't know how many hundreds of years relying on segregation so that you could get preferential treatment. You relied on unions that were centered around the old boy network. You relied on the Ku Klux Klan being part of the police force, which they are now, again. You relied on your ancestors' money that they made off of bootlegging in white Appalachia while everybody else was starving, or slavery, where they got reparations and got to keep their land that they enslaved black people on. So here we are in 2025. And you wonder why you get no turnout. There is going to be turnout in Washington, D.C. There is going to be some sort of revolution. That's not a threat, it's a scenario. However, it is not going to be driven by white men mandating who needs to be at what protest and when. Here's what's going to happen. Here's how we're organizing shit. Okay, the Target protests were successful. The CEO resigned. If you take half of the American population, which is 340.1 million people, and you take 1/4 of those people out of the buying market, and I'm talking Target, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, and all those other places that don't embrace DEI, that's only a portion. So they don't spend $100 or $20 or $4 and they get their community members and they talk to somebody else. This is what we did in Maryland. This is what Al Sharpton did when he walked into that Costco with a bunch of people up in New York to demonstrate black financial power. It is real. And you can acknowledge it or not, but we're going to keep doing us. Then, if you take it to another level, we can absolutely, if we stop trying to dictate terms, do a national strike. When you get on an airplane, every time you pay for a ticket, you run the risk of being on board right now with a detainee from ICE, paid for by tax dollars. Now, I would rather be on an airplane with a bunch of ICE detainees than a lot of white people that get on planes right now. But I digress. Every time you buy that ticket, you're financing an airline that is perpetuating hate, death, incarceration, and extermination. Every little bit helps. So on the 1st of September, we need to start defunding the airlines by not buying tickets. Defunding red states by not visiting them. If you're not coming to D.C. to protest, you should probably stay at home. And not because you're weak or anything like that, but I don't want you spending your tax dollars to make Donald Trump look good. Because the people coming to protest in D.C. are going to have other ways of feeding themselves and traveling and so forth. Because we're organizing those things now, while everybody's screaming about how everybody needs to get to D.C. on no resources. You have to have an objective. An objective. If your objective is just to have a bunch of people show up somewhere, that's not a fucking objective. I'm not going to use my last money to come to whatever when you have no objective. All you want is my body there. It's not about popularity. It's not about making yourself look good on YouTube. It's not about financing your career. It's about getting as many bodies in one place at one time, collectively, with an objective. And right now, the objective is to save this democracy. Not protest CNN, not run around Fox News and DC and all this other bullshit. If we're going to do this, we need to do it with precision. And we need to do it together, and we need to do it at the same time. So right now, it's Wednesday. Labor Day weekend starts in a couple days. You should make your way to DC, because if you don't, you might not be able to get in. That's how veterans and black people around here are organizing. We have a whole bunch of military bases around here. We've been talking to these people. We've been out on the street. We haven't been getting on YouTube shooting off at the mouth and telling people what they should do. We encourage them to come there and be a part of history and be a part of change. It's not about standing up to what they're going to do to you and everybody collectively get into some demonstration so some organization can claim credit. No. No matter where you are in the United States or whether or not you can participate in the protests this weekend, no man can do anything to you that you don't allow them to do. So this isn't about this guy or this organization. It's about stopping our brothers and sisters from being slaughtered, sent away to foreign lands, which is now the new chattel form of slavery. We are sending people off to countries where they have never been and paying their governments with United States American tax dollars seized by Doge. And you want to protest outside of fucking CNN? Good luck. That's why nobody's showing up. This is the John Brown Alliance. Time to get moving. Time to get educated. But we don't have time to wait for you.